Evening, everyone. My name is Shreya Talwar and I work with the Ananta Aspen Center. A very warm welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us for this very special program. Today, we are hosting the first session of a new webinar series on police and policing. I would like to welcome and thank our partner, the Indian Police Foundation, and Mr. Ramachandran, who is the president and founder of the Indian Police Foundation and former DGP Assam and Meghalaya, for making this possible. We look forward to our collaboration with you, Mr. Ramachandra, and with the Indian Police Foundation. A warm welcome to Mr. Govind Ethiraj, the founder of India Spend and Boom, and he is also a fellow of the Kamal Nayan Bajaj Fellowship at the center. Thank you, Govind, for agreeing to moderate this session. Last but not the least, a special welcome to an amazing group of police officers who are here to share their personal stories. Thank you for your service to the nation and to the people. May I now request Mr. Ramachandran to share his thoughts. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramachandran. I am the president of the Indian Police Foundation. I just begin with just 1 second. Please give me a second. So, 24th March 2020, that is the date when it all began, and our stories that are being told today began that day. Suddenly, one fine morning, the police was saddled with one more brand new responsibility, that is of enforcing a pandemic lockdown. Now, nobody knew much about the virus or how to respond to it, not even the WHO. Now, you can imagine the position of the policeman and the policewoman in the streets. There was hardly any time to brief them. Not only they were required to enforce the lockdown, they were also required to deal with the fallout of the entire situation. Millions of persons were suddenly stricken by fear of being hit by the virus, or fear of losing their livelihood. Those who were daily wages earners were suddenly without food. And tens of thousands of migrant workers stricken by both fear and many of them stricken by hunger also took to the streets suddenly. And we had a first-class humanitarian crisis in the making. Now, the police personnel in the street, as always, were the first responders to this evolving crisis. And when most of us were inside the safety of our homes, our police, as well as the central armed police forces, were out on the streets, taking on the crisis head on. And they rose to the occasion. I must also tell you that as of today, as many as 1,083 police and CRPF personnel have died of COVID. And nearly 1,90,000 police and CRPF personnel have been infected by COVID. For the police, this has been no less than a war. In fact, in modern day wars, so many people do not die. 1,083 persons from the police dying in a span of about 7 to 8 months. And today, some of the officers who were in the middle of this battle are here to narrate their stories. Stories of how they coped and how they helped others cope. So, thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I hand over the mic to Mr. Govindraj Etiraj, who will be moderating today's session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramchandran. This is a very, I mean, it's an unusual moment for me. I mean, I've never been had the privilege of moderating such an amazing discussion in the middle of the pandemic that is still going on, and hearing these stories. So, I mean, these stories, I think, to everyone who's joining in, represent not just people from different places, but also the sheer fabric and diversity of India. You may hear these stories for the first time, but the fact that we have pulled through, all of us, this most difficult or the most difficult phases of the pandemic is a testament to the hard work, ingenuity, and sheer dedication of these officers you will hear today. So thank you very much, Ananta Center. Thank you, Mr. Ramchandran, from my side as well. So as we launch into the stories, a couple of quick housekeeping rules. We have about 9 speakers, and we have about an hour and 10 minutes, or a little less than that. So I would urge all our speakers and officers to speak for less than 6 minutes, so that we have some time for conversation and take questions from everyone, because there will be lots of questions. So we're going by alphabetical order. So I'm going to start by first inviting Dr. Robin Kumar from the Indian Police Service, Superintendent of Police in Barpeta District and Assam. Robin, it's over to you. So Robin is here, but I'm not able to see him. Okay, shall we move and then come back? May I invite Jaydev Ji, in IPS Superintendent of Police and District Police Chief in Kottayam, Kerala. Jaydev, if you're with us, go ahead. You have 6 minutes.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. It's actually it's good to see our eminent personalities around, as well as my batchmates Robin and Harry in the panel. So I'll start straight away. I won't here, as Sri Ramchandran sir told, this was the challenge that we were thrown up suddenly, and we had actually no idea how to go about it. It was either to unknown territories that we had to go. But yes, we rose up to the challenge. That's what police force do, and we did rose up to the challenge. Kerala, as we all know, was the first state to be hit by COVID in India. It was started around January, but anyway, it slowly crept in, and by the time it reached my district, it was around March first week. Again, we rose to the challenge, and finally, at one fine day, the lockdown was established, and we were suddenly into the roads. Here, the Kerala police took another initiative, and it was like hailed all over India, called the triple lockdown, where lockdown was having a triple lock system, 3 locks. One lock where the entire borders were fenced, borders were were sealed. The second, where critical containment zones were created and their police was kept. And the third, where the persons or the inhabitants and those quarantined were asked strictly to remain in their home. All 3 locks, in all 3 phases of locks, police force were the ones who were implementing. In the first lock, they were all day in and day out, they used to be there, interacting and stopping the persons, taking legal action against offenders. In the second lock, they'll be putting barricades, going and again enforcing this along with the health officials. Third, they will be going in mobile patrol, even the drone patrol, and to see that the persons doesn't come out of their houses. And surprisingly, here in Kerala, we used to provide provisions for all those people who are in the quarantine. The police person doubled up as a police enforcer, as a law enforcer, as well as those who are supplying, like a Zomato, maybe equate to that, kind of a Zomato dealer who gives provisions and important medicines, etc., to those in the needy. So that's what police also to challenge him. Though there were risk involved, though they couldn't, they know that somewhere the quarantine houses, they still go. I still remember one day when I was there, my policemen were carrying gas cylinders on their back and keeping it right up to the door of a house, and then the final lady coming out of after time and taking it away. So this all bit, and Kerala having a history of community policing with the Janamaitri concept, it was there was a huge cooperation from the public. I could see at night, even at various picket points that we were having, people used to give us a lot of food from ranges from tender coconut to different kinds of fish, so that police who they know that they are standing for their own, for the benefit of society, shouldn't be having anything to worry over. So it was a very hard feeling to watch all this interaction with the public and the police in there. And when we study, what back in our police academy days, we used to study about Pelian principles, that public is police, police is public. This was a very sheer example of that. We could see police and public coming together and sharing their same. Another challenge that we were thrown up was one fine day when I was sitting like this in my camp office. Suddenly, a news came out that thousands of migrant laborers came out in the streets of Paipat, a village in Kottayam where thousands are staying. And when we went there, I was also the first time I was facing some sheer 10,000 people standing around and demanding they have to go back to their homeland. Sheer challenge, but we strictly we gave a direction that we shouldn't be using lathi at all, no violence whatsoever. But again, we have to disperse them because it's a COVID time and we shouldn't be allowing people to congregate in that amount. We persuaded in whatever manner we gave promises, and they after a while they also came, they also understood our problem and they went back to their camps after a lot of talks and mediation. But the important thing is that we kept our promise. We told that we will be providing everything that we require. Even the narrative itself changed. Honorable CM of Kerala, they changed that they shouldn't be called migrant laborers. They should be called guest laborers because they are the guests who are in our state. And nobody should be kept nobody should be in a hunger state throughout this lockdown phase. So the government chipped in. They provided rations, but it was the police who ensured that the last mile delivery of all those things. Our home guards, because Kerala people come from Assam, West Bengal, etc., and they are not familiar with, and Malayalis are not familiar with Hindi and Bengali. So our home guards, who are ex-servicemen, who are provisioning with Hindi and Bengali, they used to develop as translators, and they used to help us in communicating with the laborers. And yes, for the 21 days, we used to maintain nodal officers for those camps, so that we will be supplying the food properly. We'll be ensuring that their basic necessities are met. There will be regularly medical camps will be conducted, even to the extent that we gave them carom boards, TVs, etc., to ensure that they will at least have some sort of entertainment and some sort of engagement, rather than their energy being vested in other, getting vented out in a way that will be hampering the society in general. So this was a whole new experience for us. But anyway, we came through in a marvelous way. The bidding thing was that when they finally this Shramik train arrived, again, they were marched properly from their camps to the trains in an orderly fashion, given ration for 1 or 2 days for their train journey. And finally, when they were going back to their homeland, they were praising Kerala police, like Jai Kerala police, and they were putting a good hello, saying that they will be coming back after the lockdown is over. So that's like really heartening for us, without the use of khaki, without any pressure being raised, just by the words of tongue, with promises, and that to the promises that we keep, we could contain that this thing without any. So Kerala model of like the migrant labor issue was got indeed a lot of praise from everyone around. When another part was that when the health officials couldn't do the contact tracing, when the numbers raised to to the tunes of thousands, again police with all their normal routine job in place, they still we started with the contact tracing, home visits using our Janamaitri beat officers. We visited each and every home where people are quarantined. We used to telephone from our police stations as well as from our district police office. regarding, on a regular interval, asking about their welfare and asking whether they are maintaining the quarantine or not, using different apps. I'm pretty sure all my friends and colleagues will be using different types of apps in their state also, for ensuring the quarantine tracing, for geofencing when if there are a violation. Even so, when if we have, like, we had apps for, when I said in the initial time that we had apps for requesting provisions and groceries to be delivered in their homes, etc. So police doubled up all these things. They were omnipresent and they were doing it in a very wonderful way.
Jaidev, may I interrupt you? You've crossed 6-7 minutes almost.
Yeah, last time I'm sloppily saying that this community policing participation, which are closed cluster groups we created, so that the enforcement will be done not just by the police but by the police and the public. So in a way, all this meant that police could do it in a very clinical fashion, not by the power of khaki, but by the cooperation of police and the public.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Robin Kumar, are you back with us? If you are, then go ahead. Okay, Robin is still, I thought I saw him, but anyway. Okay, let's go to Hari Balaji, Superintendent of Police from Amravati Rural. Hari, it's over to you.
Sir, good evening, sir. Thank you. Everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I am currently posted as SP Amravati in Maharashtra. I am about to narrate an incident which happened in April during lockdown. On April 9, 2020, I received a letter from 6th, 7th standard students of a secondary school in a small town named Patrud in Amravati district. So I'm just reading the letter in Marathi, which I will convert it later into English. It read that नागेसर लाई बदमाश आहे, नागेसर आमचे जबरदस्ती करतात, नागेसर ये शाळेतून रिटायर झालं पाहिजे, 1 वर्षापासून नागेसर आम्हाला कुठे पण हात लावतात, नागेसर चॉकलेट देऊन हात लावतात, हात नाही लावू दिली तर मारतात. It translates into Nagesar, he is very mischievous, he does forceful things on us. Nagesar, he has to retire from the school, and for the last 1 year he keeps his hand anywhere in our body, and if we refuse that, he used to beat us. So based on this complaint, we registered an FIR under Indian Penal Code and Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act. Surprise is, the next day, the parents of these kids came and they were asking for a compromise. So because that said teacher was politically powerful and they don't want to go against the teacher. But the question is, the kids who have been at the receiving end, and they are very much motivated, and they are very much adamant to go forward with the complaint. So how come where they receive these much guts to speak against the same teacher who was harassing them for so many years? So this not only happened to the 6 kids who came to us, it happened because of the awareness which we generated to 25,000 school kids during the said lockdown time in regard to the POCSO Act, Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act. The schools were shut down, and we know that many domestic violence and many offences against children and women and vulnerable groups were rising. So the schools were shut down. So we went through the webinar mode. So we were requesting the school, and the school gave us a period. So in that period, 40 minutes of period, so 20 minutes we made an audio visual session. So before the 20 minutes, we used to give a questionnaire and we used to take the marks, how much awareness they had on the topic. And after the audiovisual session, for the same questionnaire was circulated, and then we took the marks of the school students. And on averaging this 20 to 25,000 school kids, it narrowed down to 50 students took 55% of the marks in the initial thing, and after the video, the marks rose down to 85%. So this is the evidence-based policing through which we did awareness creation during the lockdown time, and this became very famous in the among the school teachers and parents, and they were demanding us further topics. So we went so we created further topics like child labor, child marriage, and women-related issues, dowry prohibition, domestic violence, harassment at the workforce, acid attacks. So further topics we created through the webinar mode. And this gave us a huge success, and DG sir recognized this, and DG sir upgraded this, and DG sir implemented this this model all through the Maharashtra. This is one part which regard to the community, with regard to crime which we did. And the second and another different part was during September 2019, in the same chamber where I was sitting, 3 police families, recently widowed women who lost their husbands in the same month. 3 men died during September 2019. They came to me and they met me. They came with an issue. The first person named Taide, he suffered from cancer, and it was undetected for a long time, very long time. And the second person, Haribau, he died because of his long-standing heart disease, hypertension, long-standing heart disease. And the third, Mr. Dilip, he died because of chronic kidney failure, because of long-standing diabetes. So on going through their records, what we found was Mr. Taide, he had abnormality in his medical test at a very early period, but he lost his record subsequently, and he ignored his symptoms due to continuous transfer or bandobast, and he didn't do proper medical follow-up. So he succumbed to the disease one day. And the second and third person, they had very long-standing disease for almost 15-20 years, but the issue is they didn't go for the regular follow-up, and they almost had zero physical activity, not even yoga, anything. And the main important thing was they didn't took the tablets regularly, which they were scheduled. So the third person's wife, what she came up with a question that baffled us. So she was asking her son, being a new recruit in the force in the same unit. So she was asking me, sir, her husband did a very good work. He was appreciated all through. But what guarantee does she have so that her son also doesn't have the same fate? So that clicked us, and I worked on it, and we as a team, we worked on that, and we thought of fixing it. It's not the issue with our men. It's not the fault of these men who didn't do regular follow-up or who didn't take regular medication, because the food which they need to take, that is the time which was not fixed because of their duties. So how come they can take their medication regularly or can do the follow-up with the doctors regularly? So we sat and analyzed, and we narrowed down some certain issues which were the main reason of the mortality and morbidity of our men. So that were identification of the issues at the earliest by a screening, and monitoring of the follow-up with the doctor, and the monitoring and the follow-up of the physical activity which one person needs to do. And this should be done on a systemic basis rather than on an ad hoc basis. And the most important thing was the adherence to the drugs, monitoring of the adherence of the drugs which one needs to take when he is diagnosed with some issue.
Hari, you've crossed 6 minutes.
Just 1 minute, so I'll be completing. So we created an individual health profile. We did screening for almost 3,000 men in our unit, and we sent a specialist to each police station. We did an individualized therapy of yoga and pranayama and everything. So we created a good medical database of all our men, and it came very handy to us. And now the bigger question is, after this database, we created an app, and through the app, we made it in the cloud storage. And the bigger question is how these data helped us during the Corona time. So during the Corona time, the WHO and ICMR came up with the guidelines of comorbidity, diabetes, blood pressure, and cancer and everything. So as we have the medical database ready in our hand, so we divided the duty distribution based on that. And high risk factors, people with high risk factors, they were not given any frontline duty, and they were kept at a duty so that they will be at a lesser rate of infection, and thereby the rate of infection got reduced and the mortality got reduced. Now the confidence which the men faced, that was very important for us, and they went with so much of confidence. And as a leader, that helped me in we are now ready to face any kind of pandemic in the future, and that really helped us. Thank you for this opportunity, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's a fascinating story. I mean, I will come back to you with questions. I mean, having a medical database which allows you to build.
So thank you, sir. This is my team which made all these things possible. I just want to show them. That's all, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is a fascinating story. I mean, definitely it deserves a follow through on that. Robin Kumar, are you back? This is your third call. Not your final call, but your third call. Huh?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Last time,
go ahead.
Some connection issues.
Go ahead.
Respected seniors, dear colleagues and audience, a very good evening to all. First of all, I am thankful to Indian Police Foundation, especially Ramachandran sir and Anand Aspen Center for arranging this webinar. My story is a tribute to whom Corona warriors who made supreme sacrifice for the nation. As I remember, it was mid-June. We were fighting on two fronts in my district, Borpeta. On the one hand, we were facing one of the worst flood. On the another, this invisible enemy, coronavirus. Flood due to mighty Brahmaputra had affected 50% of the population. Poor men, women, children were forced to leave their home and to take shelter in temporary camps. On the other hand, thousands of agriculture workers, industrial laborers, students were coming back to their home from all over India by road and railways after lockdown. Our policemen were posted at district borders, railway stations, bus stands to receive them, maintaining queue, feeding them as they were traveling for many days without food, transferring them to the quarantine centers. Some were engaged in distributing relief to flood victims, while others were doing rescue operation in flood affected villages. Irony was that these policemen who were looking after families of everyone were afraid of going back to home, to their families, afraid of spreading COVID to their own families and their own parents. We took all preventive steps possible. Still, on 25th June, one of our policemen got infected. So we decided to get tested, all of us, in a phased manner. 3 days later, on 29th June, in afternoon, I got test result of approximately 400 men. To the utter shock, 48 came positive. 80% of the staff at two police stations, Kolgasia and Sarupeta, came positive, while rest 20% would have to go mandatory quarantine. It had created a sense of apprehension, a sense of fear. We were shocked what to do next. But police station providing emergency services can't be closed. So we called some men from the police reserve. We went to these police stations after sanitization and posted them, motivated them. But we were not in the position to lose more men, as our men were already very overstressed. So we started looking for the reasons why it had happened. We found out it happened because many of our policemen were not going for testing. Even after having a mild symptoms, either due to lack of time or due to the fear of getting infected in hospitals, fear of living in quarantine centers. Many were hiding mild symptoms. We noticed that most of the persons who were getting severe symptoms were from the older age group with the comorbidities. So we thought of starting evening medical camps in police reserve, particularly for the more than 45 years age group. But doctors were not there. They were already overburdened. Fortunately, having medical background, it gave me opportunity. I took help from the local private hospital and they supported me for getting lab tests done on concession basis or the free of cost. We started camp, we screened them one by one, got them tested and posted them accordingly away from the field duties. We ensured that their disease remain in the control. This measure helped us a lot. And now older policemen having existing disease were posted away from the field duties. Although it was a small effort, but it was appreciated even by our Honorable Vice President of India and Honorable Chief Minister of Assam. These appreciating words boosted our morale further. However, this measure helped us, but it was not sufficient. It only decreased the pace, but our policemen were getting infected. I was receiving complaints for poor food, infrequent doctor visit in the hospital, as hospitals are already running on more than their capacity. Gradually, even my staff of SP Office 2 were getting positive. I remember my cook tested positive. He called me and said, in full of tears, मैं वापस आ पाऊंगा या नहीं सर? यदि कुछ हो जाए तो प्लीज मेरी फैमिली की देखभाल करिएगा. These developments were making me think to do something. Then on 21st July morning, at around 5 a.m., I received a call from District Civil Hospital that one ASI, Kameshwar Lakhar, is no more. This dreadful virus has taken the first toll from our district police fraternity. It shook me. I was not finding words to disclose this sad news to his wife, his son, who had talked to his husband, his father, very previous night. Later in the day, we performed last rites. We cremated him. In the evening, I talked to the DGP sir. He also got emotional. He said, "You are a doctor. You should utilize your medical knowledge and do something for our man." I proposed the idea of opening COVID care center dedicated to police personnel and their families. He encouraged me. He supported me. I proposed this idea of COVID care center because this virus, because of the peculiarity of this virus, it is highly contagious but less fatal, meaning it infects a lot of people but kills few. Many of infected remain asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic before becoming negative. So many of us infected don't require much of health infrastructure, many drugs or intense hospitalization. Secondly, our constables who were fighting in the field, usually have one bedroom flat, making them home quarantine impossible for them. So keeping this in mind, we go ahead with this idea of opening our own COVID care center dedicated for police personnel and their families with a quarantine facility. But there was a problem of resources, problem of manpower. So I called a meeting with my colleague and my man and talk about this. Everybody was more than willing to contribute to this COVID care center. As everybody knew, nobody is immune to this deadly virus. It would be better to have our own COVID care center. There was an old defunct building of a sport complex in the police reserve. Credit to support of seniors and relentless work of my staff, we got ready this COVID care center within 2 weeks. On 4th of August, Honorable DGP sir himself inaugurated this. Now the running of this COVID care center was in our hand. We decided that we will ensure that every person admitted there get their medicine on time, food on time, doctor visit them properly, and they get transferred to the higher center immediately if any complication develops. This COVID care center has boosted the morale of our force. It was their own.
Robin, you're past 7 minutes. Huh? Sorry.
Sir, I'll take just 30 seconds, sir.
Sure.
So this has improved a lot our situation, but unfortunately we lost one ASI, Jugal Taluka. So I just share one story also. I'll share one inspiring story, very short, from the WPC, a woman constable. She belongs to Moregaon district. In this district, when this started, this COVID-19 started, then this Inu Devi, WPC, she herself go on the scooter and distributed the essential grocery item from her pay to 200 families. I'll just end my story, just highlighting the point what Assam Police did. They have provided relief to the 6 lakhs people, home delivered medicine to 8,006 people, operated 24/7 helpline for mental health and senior citizens. Those were difficult times, but I think Assam Police has accepted this challenge and in the service of people. I rest my words, remembering again the Corona martyrs who made supreme sacrifice for the nation. Jai Hind, thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. Just a quick one. What is your specialization in medicine?
Yes, sir. I'm the medicine, sir. Then after I did non-DM SRCP in cardiology. Sir.
In cardiology, okay.
Sir.
Okay, thanks for that. I mean, I've got a lot of questions, and I'm glad you brought out the element of mental health as well, because that's, I'm sure, an important issue which all your colleagues would have grappled with and continue to do at this time. Dawood Syed is a police naik with Unit 2 Crime Branch, Pune. Dawood, it's over to you. You'll have to unmute.
जैन सर, सबको प्रणाम सर. हिंदी में कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं सर?
प्लीज. हाँ, नो प्रॉब्लम.
जी सर, मेरा नाम दाऊद सैयद. मैं लगभग 12 साल से पुलिस सिटी में हूँ, पुलिस एज ए कांस्टेबल. अभी इस साल प्रमोटेड हुआ हूँ पुलिस नाइक पर. सर, पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट का एक सबसे बड़ा बात जो है वो छुट्टी. तो मैं उस टाइम छुट्टी पे था मार्च में. तभी मुझे हमारे सीनियर्स का कॉल आया कि एक ब्लाइंड पति पत्नी है जो पुणे में रहते हैं, और जो लेडी है वो प्रेग्नेंट है 9 मंथ की. तो उनकी देखभाल के लिए यहाँ पे कोई नहीं है, और लॉकडाउन की वजह से सर गाड़ियों का बहुत ज़्यादा दिक्कत हो रहा था, तो गाड़ी उनको अवेलेबल नहीं हो रहा था। तो हमारे सीनियर्स ने हमें कॉल किया मुझे, कि उन्होंने बताया ऐसा ऐसा रीज़न है, उनको लेकर आना है। तो सर ऑलमोस्ट मेरा एक 8-10 दिन का छुट्टी बाकी था, और माहौल इस तरह का था कि कोई नया आदमी किसी के पास आने या बात करने से बहुत ज़्यादा कतरा रहे थे। तो वहां से मैंने गाड़ी का ट्राई किया गांव से, लेकिन जैसे कि आप जानते हो सर, पूना में कोरोना के पेशेंट बहुत ज़्यादा है, वहां से कोई आने के लिए इधर रेडी नहीं हो रहा था। तो मुझे पूना से गाड़ी बुलानी पड़ी एज अ परमिशन लेके हमारे सीनियर्स की। और मेरा रूट वहाँ से एक 90 किलोमीटर अलग रूट से आता हूँ मैं जनरली हर बार, लेकिन उनको लेकर आना था, उनसे मेरा कांटेक्ट हो गया। तो फिर वहाँ पे मैं गया, 90 किलोमीटर और रूट से गया, उनको रिसीव किया सर वहाँ पे। और रिसीव करने के बाद गाड़ी में लेके उनके जो दामाद है, कोथरूड में रहते हैं यहाँ पे पुणे में नया स्टॉप पे, उनके पास ड्रॉप किया सर। ड्रॉप करने के बाद उन्होंने जिस तरीके से उन्होंने इंस्पायर किया हमको, हमने 12 साल से मैंने बहुत सारा काम किया है, लेकिन एक अलग ही अनुभव वहाँ उनके बातों से ऐसा लगा, इंस्पायरेशन बहुत ही अलग था। तो वहाँ से सर हमने काम शुरू किया कोरोना में। फिर उसके बाद सर हमको क्राइम ब्रांच में जो होम क्वारंटाइन थे, या जो कुछ लोग फोन बंद करके जो किसी के कनेक्शन में आ रहे थे, जो भी पेशेंट है पॉजिटिव, तो वो लोग मोबाइल बंद करके कहीं चले जाते थे, तो उनको खोजने का काम हमको दिया गया था सर। तो बहुत सारे लोगों को हमने वहाँ से खोजा भी, चेकिंग भी हुआ। तो उस दौरान सर मैं भी पॉजिटिव आया था खुद, और मेरी वजह से मेरा एक 4 साल का लड़का है घर पे, वो भी पॉजिटिव आ गए थे। तो उस दौरान सर माहौल कुछ ऐसा हो गया था कि पुलिस वाला है, तो आजू बाजू के लोग थोड़ा सा बात करने से कतरा रहे थे। तो रोज आना जाना ड्यूटी पे था हमारा, तो बाहर आने जाने से थोड़ा लोग पहले ही डरते थे। और जैसे ही लोगों को पता चला कि मैं पॉजिटिव आ गया, तो जो भी हमारे डिपार्टमेंट के लोग थे, उन्होंने बहुत सारा मदद की हमको, बहुत सारी हेल्प की। लेकिन जो आजू बाजू के रिश्तेदार होते हैं या फिर अपने पड़ोसी, उनसे जो एक्सपेक्ट था, उनसे थोड़ा सा सर प्रॉब्लम हो गया, क्योंकि वो भी कतरा रहे थे बहुत सारी मदद करने से। घर पे लड़का भी था, मैं भी था, तो मुझे तो थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम हो गया था, इसलिए हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट हो गया। जो मेरा लड़का था होम क्वारंटाइन ही था, उसको थोड़ा सा तकलीफ कम था। तो इस तरह एक मोरल थोड़ा सा डाउन हो गया कि हम लोगों के लिए इतना सारा कुछ करते हैं, जब हम पर कुछ आता है तो कुछ एक्सेप्ट करते हैं हम लोग, तो वो सर नहीं हो पाया उस समय। और दूसरी बात सर, कोरोना में जब हम पेट्रोलिंग करते थे या फिर नाकाबंदी करते थे, सिक्योरिटी तो बहुत की ली थी सर हमने, सैनिटाइजिंग या हैंड ग्लोव मास्क कंटिन्यू लेते थे। लेकिन फिर भी कहीं ना कहीं इस बीमारी का सर इलाज नहीं कहीं से कहीं हो सकता है, कहीं से भी हो जा रहा है। तो सर इसके बाद सर उन्होंने स्पेशली थैंक्स, जब अभी थोड़ा सा कोरोना कम हो गया, तो स्पेशली हमको बुला के उन्होंने थैंक्स किया हमारा, जो कि सर बहुत अच्छा लगा। आज तक तो काम बहुत सारे किए, लेकिन इस काम में इंस्पायरेशन बहुत मिला सर।
थैंक यू दाऊद जी। दाऊद जी, क्या अभी अभी कब आपको हुआ था कोरोना वायरस, ये कोविड?
सर 2 महीने हो गए सर।
अच्छा, एनीवे नाउ आप अभी एकदम फिट और
जी
back at work. Okay.
जी सर।
Okay. Thank you for that. Can I invite K. Shilpavali from the additional DCP at Rachakunda in Telangana?
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Good evening, all. This is my story of COVID period. On one of those lockdown mornings, my 4-year-old son came running to me saying he couldn't find Prasad or his parents. Prasad is his friend and son of a construction worker in the neighboring construction site. When I went to check, neither Prasad's family was there nor the whole group of workers were there. While my son was complaining that I was not allowing him to go and play with Prasad of late and that now he left, I was not thinking of answering him, but was perplexed by the picture of a kid of my son's age walking barefoot along the national highway in the scorching heat of summer to reach his hometown in Srikakulam, nearly 800 kilometers away from Hyderabad. Tell me, what would have been your longest walk with all sneakers and sweatshirts? Or how desperate we are to provide all luxuries to our kids lockdown or not. But things are not the same with all. Have we not seen videos and pictures of thousands of migrant workers walking miles and miles, of the women feeding their babies on the roads, of the cracked heels and blistered feet? What would they eat and where? Where would they rest or sleep? Where would women go for their natural calls? We couldn't stop them forcibly as there were no directions. Neither could we simply watch and let them go. So we filled our police vans with bread packets, water bottles, milk in Tetra packs, biscuit packets, and even sanitary napkins. We sent those vans along the routes in our limits generally taken by these people and distributed the material. Now, what about all those migrant workers staying in our commissionerate limits? Have they left or are they planning to? How are they living right now? We started a survey of the migrant workers in our area in partnership with Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Quickly, teams of volunteers were formed under each professor to each police station. People were gathered with all COVID norms. In a span of just 15 days, we could get the data of nearly 11,000 migrant workers under various socioeconomic heads. While this data and exercise was helpful, later on, when the government arranged trains for them to go to their native towns, what was more important is the instant help we could be of to these people. Like we got requests for medical aid and we shifted patients to hospitals in our own police vehicles. We even conducted medical camps in all their colonies. Issues with house owners or factory owners were brought to our notice and the local police sorted out the issues immediately. At places, people complained of lack of drinking water, so we arranged tankers with local support. Where people had no means to buy a meal, we cannot expect them to buy masks and sanitizers, so we supplied them with those as well. Pregnant ladies were given kits of medicines and nutritious food. Not to forget, all through the period of lockdown, till they boarded the trains, at least one meal was supplied to them daily. Wherever possible, we even gave dry ration kits for 5 to 7 days. You might ask, after all, you could not stop them from walking or leave their workplace. Yes, I agree, because this issue is much larger than our purview till governments took over. But as frontline workers, we could not sit laid back saying there are no directions. What we are seeing on ground was appalling. You see that hotel boy from Assam, the carpenter from UP, the brick kiln worker from Odisha, the construction worker from AP, the factory worker from Bihar, and many such have made our lives comfortable all these days. Is it not now the time to show our solidarity to them? Ratchakonda police resolved that as long as they are with us in our limits, hunger should not strike them, despair should not hit them. We might not have been able to stop the migrant labor from moving out, but amidst all their crashed hopes and gloomy future, we, the police, could definitely lit a spark of faith that they do matter and they will be taken care of. As a matter of fact, there were comparatively less number of migrant labor from Telangana who left by walk, and 90% of them went by the trains arranged by the government. This is how, when crises part our ways, humanity unites. Are we some messiahs to do this? No. We are also fraught with fear of the virus. For we also have kids and elders at home, and with all the high risk of getting contracted with the virus, we even were afraid of going homes after our duty. While most of us slept in the police stations only, those who went home stayed separately. Imagine how difficult it would be to avoid a 4-year-old kid coming to his mother after a long day. But as you all know, it was not an affair of one day. For more than 3 to 4 months, we had to keep our kids away from us, and we had to avoid going to see our aged parents and in-laws in the villages. As we see our own colleagues infected with the COVID, we had to support them morally while dealing with our own stress. Moreover, this is just one of the many activities that is dealing with the migrant labor. Apart from them, there were others in the slums. There were people stranded who needed passes. There were orphanages, old age homes which required support. There were emergency calls to attend. There were many agencies to coordinate, many individuals and organizations to work along with. There was this task of ensuring medicine supply, masks, gloves, other PPE equipment to our own men, the task of taking care of those of us who were affected with COVID. And even after recovery, our people donating plasma to civilians in need and many more. We also had to deal with the stressed out civilians who are under pressure of loss of income, loss of employment, loss of a dear one, of being restricted to move out, of being confined to homes, of addressing the shortage of ambulance services, of fulfilling the wish of even kids staying abroad to wish their parents on their birthdays, and so on. The multitude of tasks is such that we as a police force, that is all we have faced during this lockdown period. Apart from us, nearly 600 individuals, 80 companies, 90 NGOs associated with Rachapuna Police in all these humane activities. All the while, police enforced the lockdown as a force, but realized our true purpose as a service. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. I don't know. Does your son understand that? I don't know. I'm sure over time he must have. But I mean, that must have been, I'm assuming, the most difficult part when you're trying to convince a child that you need to stay away. How was that?
Yeah, yes, it was quite difficult in the initial days. But even now he says, why did China people invent this coronavirus? Why did China people did this to all of us? That is a question. Because generally I'm against the plastic and all. When I used to say these are all China items, we should not buy them. So he's like, even virus is invented by China. How come? Why do China people do this? Nothing against in general of public, but
Right.
just putting it in from his perspective.
Right. Thank you for that. I don't know if Atul is with us now, but I was told that okay. Just let me check if Atul is, no, he doesn't seem to have joined us as yet. Okay, so let's go to the Central Industrial Security Force and from the airports. Urvish Thakur, Assistant Commandant, joins us. Urvish, it's over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. All respected members, a very good evening to all of you. I'll be speaking on behalf of the airport security group that we have in CISF, Pan India. So let us start, sir. We were at the working places, and suddenly we received a call from the control room on 30th of January that you've been called in the board for the meeting immediately. And then we rush over there to find the air is very tensed in the meeting room. All the seniors are thinking and they are deep into their thoughts. And we wondered what has happened exactly. And then we sat down and I asked my senior, I whispered to him, so what's wrong? And then his reply really sent chill down through my spine. He said, on 1st of February, we'll be receiving a flight from Wuhan. And that time, though the virus is not so scary now, but that time it seemed like, oh my God, what is going to come our way now? What do we have to do into this? A lot of deliberations, a lot of talking, a lot of managing of things took place. Because this was a very different situation at that time. The pandemic in total was so scary. It's not like we are some messiahs or something. Even we get scared. But then duty first, and we were waiting for the flight, and then we decided to see the passengers at the tarmac near the at the airport inside it. So we were waiting for the flight, and suddenly the flight came out of the cloud, and somebody identified the red tail of Air India, said, sir, this might be the flight from Wuhan. It came and parked right in front of us. I was looking at the doors, and the ladder was placed at its side. I thought, like, it reminded me of a movie wherein like the flight door opens and the zombies run out of it, and then they convert you to a zombie or something like that. It was so scary at that time. And then the ladders were placed and the passengers started disembarking from the flight itself. I've seen the passengers, even they were horrified with all what they've been through in Wuhan. God knows what must have happened with them. And what about the food? Are they okay? Are they ill? And they just disembarked. And we were in awe actually. We saw them and we were like, oh my God, now we have to do something. And then suddenly we started seeing passengers who were ill, who were not well, who had fever or who might be very tired because of the journey. And then it was decided that time, and CISF that time really invented something that was not done before. We shifted the whole of the security hold area at near the airstrip itself. And we were just armed with our PP kits and hoods and masks, and we were not really knowing as in what to do, because those were the times when much of information was not there in the public domain, not even with the doctors, nowhere. So we were just aware that we have to stay away and we have to be protected. So somehow we left everything aside. We decided to go with it. We frisked them. We got them aside. We gave them food, water. The medical doctors were present. We were there, and a bus was arranged, and then they were sent to the nearest of the camp that was possible for isolation in quarantine, and the procedure was carried out. And as soon as we thought that, okay, if we have done this, we might go on with this, and we might show master the technique to stay away at the same time and to protect the passengers also from infecting and cross-infecting others. And it was an evening of 7th of August. ASG Calicut, Airport Security Group Calicut. Calicut was doing its normal operations at the airport and everything. And suddenly the radio echoed, and the information that was passed on the radio left everybody in shock. Assistant Sub-Inspector over there, who was deployed at the gate, reported that he has just witnessed a crash and the cockpit is just few meters away from him, and there are people inside it. And then everyone who was in the barrack, everyone who was nearby, everyone started running towards the crash site. We were all of the people were there. And then it was pouring very heavily that day. It was night, it was dark. The light was not at its brightest of the intensity, as you could imagine. There were people yelling from the aircraft side. There were people yelling from inside. They needed a helping hand at that time. Also, at the same time, there was a big problem. The coronavirus was looming. At the same time, there was fuel discharge all over the place around the flight. You could imagine the smell of the fuel over there. Anything would have happened if rain gods were not our sides that day. That day, rain gods really helped us. Because of which, and because of the fire tenders, they poured in so much of water that no fire took place. So a major catastrophe that day was avoided. And CISF rescued all of the passengers and the crew and the pilots. Unfortunately, they died. One of the pilots, he died on the spot, and another one was on his way to the hospital when he took his last breath. It was very horrifying. He was left alone by his 8 months old pregnant wife that day. But CISF did not lose hope that they did not fear the coronavirus nor the fuel, just went inside, rescued all the passengers just within 4 hours, and all of them were sent. Some of them were sent on motorcycles who were able to sit on the motorcycles. Some of them were sent into mass purchasing vehicles that are available to us, because not so many ambulances were available that time. Many of the ambulances were actually doing their duty to take away coronavirus patients or COVID cases or other such cases in the city. So whatever was available to our hands, we used it, and we sent the passengers to the hospital, saving lots and lots of lives. And this was only possible because of the courage and the valor of the personnel those were deployed at there, and the presence of mind they showed by allowing some civilians into the airport that day, so that they could also help in the rescue operations, which was later on escorted outside. So this was it. While all this functioning was done, Vande Bharat mission was announced by the government. The Vande Bharat mission was a large-scale rescue operation done by Government of India. Even the speakers would be in awe that 212,000 passengers and 235,000 passengers arrived and departed respectively. Such was heavy number of the passengers. We were unaware who is corona positive, who is not. CISF being the real first liners in the virus, in the sense that the virus did cross its borders mostly from the airports, and we were unaware who was infected and who was not that time. And we carried on with our operations. When such large number of people were pouring into the airport, you won't believe there were 20,000 passengers at a single time in a single airport that were arriving, especially at the Indira Gandhi International Airport, where most of the flights were arriving. People did not, the airport soon ran away with water. The airport soon ran away with the food supplies. There were children inside of the passengers who were not able to get milk. There were elderlies, there were PRM passengers. We could feel the pain, but they were not able to get out of the airport because there was so much of agencies involved. The agencies had a tough time too, because their own people were infected by the virus. They were suffering severe shortages of manpower. That time, CISF was looked upon to
Pravesh, you've crossed 7 minutes.
Okay, CSF was, so I'll just finish in short time. CSF was looked upon to, and then we managed and we invented a system of batching, and all the senior officers at all the ranks were seen camping virtually at the airport for 48 long hours, and the passengers took 24 hours earlier, but then after streamlining, they just took few hours to cross over the international airports. So this is how we have done it, and also established quarantine centers with me leading the team. And we were actually able to see to it that who of all our force members could be the next victim of the coronavirus, as we developed a program of our own, and then on which we could visibly see what are the dots coming up. We marked everyone who was staying around it, and then we were able to predict who was the next person going to get affected, and we would used to get them into the camp. And this is how CISF battled it, and we have rightly served humanity and the force and the nation respectively. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you. Urvesh, I mean, that's interesting. I heard this is your second or third example of using technology to contact trace or to find out. So
Yes,
is this
yes.
something that CISF developed natively, or did you pull it from somewhere else?
No, so what we did is, it was a very simple thing. Me with the help of some sub-inspectors who are engineers and also my wife. So we marked with dots on the Google map itself where all our people are living in. Okay, because our people were getting locked into the hotspots. So we were not able to get them out for the daily work, because the airport was never out of duty. Airport was on continuously. So what we did, by the help of local agencies, as they used to paste the COVID-19 stickers on the walls in Delhi, we used to take that information. The intelligence would used to roam around. We used to plot those on the Google Maps, and then I had given it a logic, like where are the medicals, where are the milk shops, like where are those places where people would frequent, go and visit frequently. At that time, and that logic brought me up to a conclusion. Okay, now at the radius of this much area, this can be converted into a hotspot, or people might get affected over here. Then I used to pick them up, and we had a place in the camp, and the families were shifted in the camp.
Right. Thanks for that, Urvesh. Deepak Yadav, additional DCP, New Delhi District. Deepak, it's over to you.
A very good evening. First of all, I extend my gratitude to Ananta Aspan and Indian Police Foundation for inviting me to this talk. Generally, when your turn is towards the end, there is very little left to talk about. There were a lot of things which I wanted to talk about. The previous speakers, they have already touched upon these things. So I would, discuss these just in brief. So it was a few days into lockdown that day, in the night, actually, I was going home. And on this Rani Jhansi flyover, I saw some of these laborers. They were walking on foot, and there were some children as well in that group. There was a small girl. She was almost as old as my child, my son, and she was walking barefoot. It was a very difficult sight, and it brought it brought me in tears. And we did some help there, but then yes, we thought that this disease is much more than a simple illness. It's actually kind of a human tragedy as well, and it is a duty to go well beyond the call of duty, the normal things that we do as police officers. So as police officers, of course, we were implementing the rules of lockdown. We were restricting the movements of people, those who were not required to go outside. But we thought about it that these poor people, particularly those who are out of job, who have been left to fend for themselves by the contractors, we have to help them. So initially it started with the local policemen, they pooling their own resources. We started cooking food in the kitchens of our police stations, but it was not sufficient. I would like to tell you that there was one sub-inspector, Rahul, he donated his entire salary for this cause. And there were other policemen who also contributed, but it was not sufficient. So we started approaching other people, organizations, and individuals. Initially, we were a bit skeptical whether people would come out in big numbers to help us. But then we saw that people were really forthcoming in helping us. And with the help of these organizations, we were able to deliver a lot of food packets and essential other items to the laborers and poor people. In order to increase the number of these donors, we started thanking them on our official Twitter handle. And I would like to tell you that we have Gurudwara Bangla Sahib, which is right behind my office. And they did such a fantastic job. They provided 80,000 food packets every day to poor people. So we thought we should pay our respects to them and to the Gurudwara and to the entire community of those who are working there and who are pulling in their resources. So we did a parikrama of Gurudwara Bangla Sahib. It was later on retweeted by Honorable Prime Minister as well. After that, there was a significant increase in the number of people who came forward to help us in helping the poor people. We were just coordinators. We did not have the financial resources, but yes, we did organize things for those individuals and organizations who wanted to come out and help. It was such a fantastic time. This was the silver lining of this dark cloud of epidemic. When we help people, these people, poor people, we saw that the respect of people towards police, it increased significantly. I had never seen such respect in the eyes of people towards police and police officers. We had put up all these pickets at various places, and we saw that whenever we went for checking of these pickets, we saw that there would be a lot of food items and gloves, masks, PP kits, hand sanitizers, these lying at those pickets. And those policemen, they told us that it is the people who are passing by, they gave it to the policemen. So it was that humane aspect of policing, that policing from straight from heart, दिल से policing जो है, इसमें दिल्ली पुलिस ने दिल से policing का भी एक campaign start किया था. So that was all about it. If I have 1 or 2 minutes left, there's another thing I would like to tell. Yeah, thank you. So we have this biggest protest site in the country, Jantar Mantar. We witness extremely large number of protests every year. Just to give you an example, last year we saw nearly 1,400 protests in which nearly 1,00,000 people participated. They came to New Delhi district to hold protests at Jantar Mantar. So average would be like nearly 5 protests a day. So when COVID started, we thought that's the end of protests, and at least we would get some respite from it, and we can focus our energies on other things. So it remained like this for some time, but after that, again the protests started. It's like initially the protesters came in trickle, but later on they came in like large numbers. So far this year, we have seen more than 300 protests, and more than 16,000 people have visited New Delhi district at various protest sites. So it was a very difficult task for us to keep our policemen safe, at the same time ensuring proper law and order on the streets. So what we did was, we distributed them PP kits and hand sanitizer, gloves, and other protective equipment. That face shield really helped. What we also did was we decongested our police stations. We shifted a lot of our policemen to community centers and hotels, guest houses. There were a number of, as I said earlier, a lot of people came out to help us. So people offered these places to us without charging, so we didn't have to pay anything for that. So what happened, those people who were handling protests and those who were deployed at vulnerable locations like hospitals and such COVID care centers, they were like kept at separate places so that there is no spread of infection amongst our policemen. So it was a very difficult time initially, particularly the initial few days. It was, personally speaking, it was quite scary also. We, as Ramachandran sir said in the beginning, not even WHO initially had an idea of this disease entirely, how it would unfold, and all of a sudden we would see some stories of young men all of a sudden dying from this disease. So because of that, it was, yes, scary, but we overcame this professional challenge, and now we are able to handle these protests in quite a professional manner. And I would like to just end it with just a small mention of this thing. I spoke to one of my police constable who was deployed on Jantar Mantar. I said कि यार आप लोगों को डर नहीं लगता, आप लोगों को ड्यूटी से कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं है? तो then he said कि सर बिल्कुल लगता है, डर लगता है, और मुझे लगता है कि कहीं मैं अपने घर वापस ये डिजीज ना लेकर चला जाऊं, अपने बच्चों को ना इन्फेक्ट कर दूं। हर किसी का जो फियर था वो सबसे ज्यादा अपनी फैमिली के लिए था। बट ही सेड कि सर इस टाइम अगर मैं छुट्टी लेकर बैठ गया या इस टाइम मैंने अपनी ड्यूटी नहीं की तो अपनी आंखों में आंखें मिला के नहीं देख सकूंगा। ड्यूटी है और ड्यूटी हम जरूर करेंगे। सो व्हेन वी हैव पुलिस फोर्स विद सच हाई such great conception of duty, we cannot fail. So that these were some of the great things that came out of it, and I'm very proud of being an officer of Delhi Police, which did extremely well during this COVID pandemic, and we came out stronger. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deepak. You've also run a little ahead of time. So let me bring in Atul, if he's now joined us. And I thought I saw him. Atul Kumar Thakur, IPS, and of course IPS, DCP South District, Delhi. Atul, go ahead.
Good evening to one and all. I was in another meeting, so I've just joined. I would introduce myself. I'm Atul Kumar Thakur. I'm DCP South District. I'm a 2008 batch IPS officer and currently posted as DCP South for the past 13 months. I'll just give you a brief background of what was our response during COVID times. So South District is one of the 15 districts of Delhi. Each district is headed by a DCP rank officer assisted by 2 additional DCPs. And generally there are 2 or 3 districts in a range. So there are 6 certain ranges in the entire Delhi. South District primarily has a population of around 50 lakh people. It's an urban area. Primary population is urban in character, and we share borders with Gurgaon as well as Faridabad. Other than that, it has a large population of vital installations such as CGO complex. We have AIIMS. We have iconic structures like Qutub Minar. We also share borders with Gurgaon and Faridabad, and prominent markets of the city like Southex Market, like Defense Colony Market. Other markets are also here. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I'll be focusing on what our response was during the initial days, how we went on to do contact tracing, how we responded to PCR calls, how we handled migrant labor issues, how were the arrangements in containment zones. Senior citizens will be a focus area, and use of social media to improve our response, as well as use of technology and our efforts to protect our personnel from COVID-19. So initial phase was quite tough for all of us. We did not know how a lockdown would progress. So in South Delhi, we had to ensure that picketing and patrolling would be strengthened in the area. The primary focus was to convince people to stay indoors, to convince the senior citizens, to convince the people who used to frequent the parks that they cannot come out of their houses to control the spread of COVID. So the first phase was telling people, educating them, and then we went on to enforcement. One of the highlights, other than normal picketing and patrolling, was a COVID patrol unit that we launched. It was a group of 40 motorcycles which had the specific task of going in the area and checking for violators, educating people, telling them to stay indoors and help control the spread of COVID-19. We also, during the initial phases, Nizamuddin Markaz का जिक्र आया, वो पास के ही डिस्ट्रिक्ट में है, तो वहाँ से कॉन्टैक्ट ट्रेसिंग की बात जो शुरू हुई, तो एक सेपरेट कॉन्टैक्ट ट्रेसिंग सेल वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड एंड ओवर 5,000 people, their contacts were traced. Health department was informed, administration was informed that these are the people who need to be tested, these are the people who need to be home quarantined, and we need to make containment zones. One of the areas was response to PCR calls. जैसे ही लॉकडाउन हुआ, लोगों के कॉल्स आने लगे कि उनके पास खाना नहीं है, दवाइयाँ नहीं है. कई बच्चों और महिलाओं को दिक्कत भी हुई. In fact, one of the instances that I remember was a lady called in the area of Kotla Mubarakpur that she had to deliver a child and she could not go out. So our PCR van rushed there, and the baby was delivered in the PCR van itself. And जिस लेडी ने वहाँ रिस्पॉन्ड किया, जिस महिला पुलिस कर्मी ने उनको रिस्पॉन्स दिया, उन्होंने बच्चे का नाम उन्हीं के पीछे रखा. तो इस प्रकार की चीजें हुई. PCR calls, all PCR calls were logged and monitored, and anybody who called for food, medicines, for any other help, that was responded to. One of the challenges that we faced was for movement passes. Lockdown के दौरान किसको allow करें कि वो move करेगा और नहीं move करेगा. तो इस हिसाब से एक movement passes के लिए एक अलग से सेल बनाई गई और almost 8,000 movement passes were issued in a period of 21 days to after proper scrutiny. Migrant labor was a big issue. We had big labor camps. यहाँ पे अर्बन एरिया में कई जगह पे कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रही थी, जगह जगह पे 5-5, 10-10 हज़ार लेबर थी. उन लेबर कैंप्स में जाना, लोगों को फूड मुहैया करवाना, उनको कईयों को सैलरी नहीं मिली थी क्योंकि वो काम नहीं कर रहे थे, तो उनके कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स ने उनको मना किया कि सैलरी नहीं देंगे, उनको सैलरी दिलवाना और उनके खाने का इंतज़ाम करना. Thankfully we had a lot of civil society chipping in, and यहाँ पे गुरुजी आश्रम है और भी कई आश्रम है जहाँ हमने कांटेक्ट किया और डेली बेसिस पे over 20,000 meal packets were prepared, distributed to labor and other people also. Containment zone में भी arrangements लगाए गए. वहाँ पे हमने ड्रोन से सर्वेलेंस की, पिकेटिंग हुई और जो भी व्यक्ति वहाँ पे अंदर गया उनको असिस्ट किया गया, हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट को असिस्ट किया गया. सीनियर सिटीजन इज एन एरिया जहाँ पे हमने फोकस किया. वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ पॉपुलेशन ऑफ सीनियर सिटीजन्स. मेनी ऑफ देम लिव अलोन, मेनी ऑफ देम डू नॉट हैव देयर चिल्ड्रन विद देम, मेनी ऑफ देम आर ओवर 80 years old, 90 years old, और उनके साथ सिर्फ उनके केयर टेकर रहते हैं. तो उनकी कई PCR कॉल्स आई, उनका हमने मॉनिटर किया कि कैसे उनको मेडिसिन पहुँचाएं. कईयों को हमने ATM रिलेटेड या फिर और भी चीज़ों में असिस्ट किया. तो सीनियर सिटीजन्स was a focus area. In many cases we realized that their children were calling from abroad and asking for help. Social media was used to proliferate messages for ensuring that people stay indoors and they use all the COVID precautions. Technology ka humne during the pandemic we used. One of the focus areas was technology, and one of the technologies that we used was drone with live feed and remote monitoring. यहाँ पे control room में बैठ के we were able to fly drones which flew up till 8 kilometers, and वहाँ पे suppose किसी पार्क के ऊपर हमने देखा कि वहाँ पे लोग इकट्ठा हो रहे हैं, तो यहीं कंट्रोल रूम में बैठे हुए हमने लाइव उनको अनाउंसमेंट किया और उनको सचेत किया कि वो अपने अपने घर चले जाएं. हर थाने में वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग लगाई गई, डॉक्यूमेंट चेकिंग के लिए अलग इक्विपमेंट्स बनाए गए, इंफ्रारेड थर्मोमीटर्स प्रोवाइड किए गए, AI enabled thermal cameras यूज किए गए, टच फ्री सेंसर बेस्ड हैंड सैनिटाइजेशन मशीन्स लगाई गई और हर ऑफिस में UV डिसइंफेक्टेंट बॉक्सेस दिए गए. तो ये टेक्नोलॉजी पे एक फोकस हमने किया. उसके अलावा एम्स के साथ मिलके हमने प्लाज्मा डोनेशन ड्राइव शुरू की और many of our personnel came forward. They participated in plasma donation forms. Enforcement was ensured. Multiple cases were registered. Over 2,000 cases were registered, and over 56,000 challans were issued for people for violating social distancing, for violating norms of wearing a mask. And iske alawa, one of the focus areas that we had was how to take care of our own personnel. So unke liye we gave them immunity boosting food. हमने एक dedicated vehicle लगाई. Temperature guns were provided, masks, face shields, gloves.
You crossed 7 minutes. So
okay, I will just finish.
Yeah.
And so a priority area was taking care of our personnel. So as Deepak had also remarked that one of the campaigns that we ran was Dil Ki Police. And one of the other campaigns that we ran was 1983 Cricket World Cup stars who all came together to give a message for COVID precautions along with Delhi Police. So the highlights for us in South Delhi were the COVID patrol bikes that we launched, the Dil Ki Police campaign that we ran, the mutual respect between COVID warriors. You would have seen AIIMS May, we had paid a respect to all the Corona warriors, and then their doctors from AIIMS, they came and they thanked. So the mutual respect between COVID warriors was seen. Taking care of senior citizens, use and leveraging technology. And the biggest satisfaction of it all was nobody went hungry. Senior citizens who required help were given help. And we ensured that things like clothes, books, even sanitary napkins were provided in slum clusters and areas where people needed them. So overall, it was a team effort, and I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to tell the people about it.
Thank you, Atul. There's a message from Sharda Naik. She says, I'm 88 years old and I live alone. I must thank the Delhi police for phoning me or coming to check up and see that I was well. It has been difficult to be isolated during COVID-19. But the gesture towards senior citizens is greatly appreciated. So that's from Sharda Naik. Ganesh, Tukaram Wagh, I'm sorry, because you're Wagh, you're also the last. We've gone alphabetically.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Police Sub-Inspector, Welfare Branch, Satara. Ganesh, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind. मैं गणेश
गणेश, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, now yeah.
Yes, sir. जय हिंद. मैं गणेश तुकाराम वाघ, पुलिस उप निरीक्षक, महाराष्ट्र के सातारा जिले में पुलिस वेलफेयर कार्यालय में कार्यरत हूँ. कोविड-19 के शुरुआत के दौरान हमने हमारे पुलिस स्टाफ को संक्रमण से बचाने के लिए जिला स्तर पर बहुत सारी सुविधाएं उपलब्ध करके दी. इसके अंतर्गत हमने पुलिस स्टाफ को पर्याप्त मात्रा में इम्यूनिटी बूस्टर टैबलेट, फेस शील्ड, मास्क, सैनिटाइजर, मल्टीविटामिन टैबलेट, माउथ सैनिटाइजर, शत प्लस आदि दवाएं तथा सुविधाएं उपलब्ध करके इसका सही इस्तेमाल करने का तरीका बताया. पुलिस स्टाफ की हेल्थ मॉनिटर करने के लिए हर दिन सभी पुलिस स्टाफ का टेम्परेचर तथा ऑक्सीमीटर रीडिंग लिया जाता था और उस पर बारीकी से नजर रखी जाती थी. अगस्त महीने के दौरान हमारे पुलिस अधीक्षक सातपुते मैडम जी के आदेश से पुलिस स्टाफ का कोविड-19 का रैंडमली टेस्ट करना शुरू किया. टेस्ट के शुरुआत में लगभग 20 से 25 जवान कोविड-19 से संक्रमित मिले. हमने तुरंत ही इन सभी को सरकारी कोविड सेंटर में भर्ती कर दिया. जैसे ही हमने टेस्टिंग बढ़ाया, साथ में ही कोविड पॉजिटिव पुलिस स्टाफ की संख्या बढ़ने लगी. कोविड पॉजिटिव पुलिस स्टाफ की बढ़ती हुई संख्या देखकर आदरणीय एसपी मैडम जी ने पुलिस दल के लिए सारी सुविधाओं से युक्त खुद का कोविड केयर सेंटर शुरू करने का आदेश दिया. उनके आदेश के अनुसार हमने केवल 24 घंटे में सारी सुविधाओं से युक्त कोविड केयर सेंटर शुरू किया. इस कोविड केयर सेंटर में देखभाल के लिए डॉक्टर, हर एक के लिए ऑक्सीमीटर, थर्मामीटर, पौष्टिक आहार, गर्म पानी तथा रूम सैनिटाइजेशन आदि सुविधाएं उपलब्ध करके दी. इन सुविधाओं के कारण हमारे कोविड केयर सेंटर में अब तक 173 पुलिस कर्मचारियों ने ट्रीटमेंट लिया और वे अभी तंदुरुस्त होकर अपनी ड्यूटी कर रहे हैं. कोविड केयर सेंटर में कोई जवान संक्रमण के कारण गंभीर हो जाते थे तो हम उन्हें सरकारी या प्राइवेट अस्पताल में भर्ती करते थे. आगे जब मरीजों की संख्या बढ़ने लगी तब बेड उपलब्ध होने में कठिनाई आने लगी. तब हमने हमारे एसपी मैडम ने हमारा खुद का कोविड केयर हॉस्पिटल होने का सोचा और केवल 4 दिन में ही सारे सुविधाओं से युक्त कोविड केयर हॉस्पिटल हमने शुरू किया. सर, चैतन्य कोविड केयर हॉस्पिटल में लगभग 30 ऑक्सीजन बेड, 1 वेंटिलेटर, 2 HFNO, 1 एक्सरे मशीन आदि आधुनिक सुविधा उपलब्ध थी। अस्पताल चलाने के लिए हमने प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल से MOU कर दिया था। चैतन्य कोविड हॉस्पिटल में लगभग 36 कर्मचारी कार्यरत थे, जिनमें 1 फिजिशियन, 1 एक्सरे टेक्नीशियन, 2 इंटेंसिविस्ट, 3 CMO आदि कार्यरत थे। चैतन्य कोविड हॉस्पिटल में जिनका HRCT स्कोर 7 से 20 तक था, ऐसे मरीजों पर उपचार किए गए। महत्वपूर्ण बात यह है कि उपचार के दौरान किसी भी व्यक्ति की मृत्यु नहीं हुई। अस्पताल में उपचार लेने वाले सभी जवानों को रेमडेसिविर इंजेक्शन तथा अन्य आवश्यक दवाएं मुफ्त में सिविल हॉस्पिटल से उपलब्ध करके दिए गए। चैतन्य कोविड हॉस्पिटल में अब तक 124 पुलिस कर्मचारी तथा उनके परिवारजनों पर उपचार हुए। परिणाम स्वरूप सभी ठीक होकर अपनी ड्यूटी कर रहे हैं। अस्पताल से डिस्चार्ज देने के बाद एक डॉक्टर हमेशा उन पुलिस कर्मचारियों के संपर्क में रहते थे और उन्हें योग्य मार्गदर्शन कर उनकी समस्या का समाधान करते थे। आज तक सातारा जिला पुलिस दल में कुल 409 पुलिस कर्मचारी कोविड-19 से संक्रमित हुए। उसमें से 399 ठीक होकर आज अपनी ड्यूटी बजा रहे हैं और अब 6 जवान उपचार ले रहे हैं। बहुत सारी सुविधाएं और उपाय के बावजूद भी आज तक हमारे 4 जवान शहीद हुए। दुर्भाग्यवश 4 जवान शहीद हुए। उनके परिवार को महाराष्ट्र सरकार की तरफ से मिलने वाले 50 लाख और पुलिस महासंचालक कार्यालय से मिलने वाले 10 लाख के प्रस्ताव को हमने कम से कम समय में सादर करके मंजूर करके लिया। शहीद हुए जवान के परिवार को चेक वितरित करके उन्हें पैसे की सही इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में मार्गदर्शन किया गया। इस तरह सातारा जिला पुलिस दल कोविड-19 में भी सभी पुलिस जवानों को मनोबल रखने में सफल रहा और आज भी हम सब पुलिस दल उत्साह के साथ अपनी ड्यूटी कर रहे हैं और आगे भी करते रहेंगे। जय हिंद।
थैंक यू गणेश। अभी इस वक्त कितने पेशेंट हैं कोविड केयर सेंटर में?
6 जवान है सर, 6 जवान ट्रीटमेंट ले रहे हैं अभी।
तो ओवरऑल नंबर अभी कम हो गया काफी?
यस सर, बहुत कम हो गया सर।
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Ganesh. And we've only got about 8 or 10 minutes to go. So what I thought is I'll just pose a couple of questions. You know, this is an amazing period. I mean, in the middle of all this struggle, it's obviously brought the police closer to the people. The stories that we've heard of the efforts that have been taken to provide food, and at such large numbers that, or I don't think you've seen it yourself, to provide medicine, to provide advice within the forces as well as outside, and all the ingenuity and innovation that's gone into cracking the problem. I mean, using technology, or in different types of technology, whether it's software or even drones to monitor and announce and tell people what to do. So I think I think behind all of this is obviously the fact that everyone here in this panel is part of a family, and they have people depending on them or their parents, and it must have been a very, very difficult time for everyone. Just as some of you pointed out, going back home itself is such a difficult and challenging task on a daily basis, and it must still be. That's not changed. It's only that we've understood this disease much better. So I think the only question I could maybe pose, and maybe I'll ask not in any specific order, but Robin maybe can start off first, and I'll get a few more, and feel free to jump in as well, is that if we've developed this new equation in a way, I mean, police and the public in most countries, I mean, India is no exception, are always, there's always a tension. But one thing the COVID seems to have done is to reduce and maybe dissolve it considerably, and brought people together. And I say the public and police. How can we build on this? Can we build a new, renewed equation of, where trust levels increase, where people also now appreciate that you are there to do much more than just police and enforce law and order. So just a couple of comments. We don't have much time. Robin, you can go first, and then anyone is free to jump in.
I completely agree, sir. This COVID-19, which has given us opportunity to showcase our humane perspective of policing. So it has brought us, it has strengthened the trust between the public and police, and the faith. The faith is shown, and we are just working on this. Although now there will be more expectations from the police side, from the public side, and we should work the way we work. So.
Okay. Anyone else wants to come in? how do we build this new equation? If there is a new equation, how can we capitalize on the new trust that we've created? Deepak, do you want to go?
Yeah, as I said during my presentation, I mean, this was actually one of the best things that came out of COVID. We formed such a good equation. It has been emphasized, it was emphasized during our training as well, and repeatedly, from the top bosses also, it keeps coming to us that the policing of 21st century, it has to be according to our times, present times. We cannot go on with the same kind of methods which sometimes brought a bad name to police, or maybe which showcase police as an organization which is just hierarchic, and where people are very strict and they are not very friendly. We have focused on community policing, particularly if you look at the activities that Delhi Police carries out. There are so many community initiatives, community policing initiatives, like taking care of the senior citizens during this COVID pandemic. There was special focus on the senior citizens, and there is a Yuva the initiative which focuses on delinquent juveniles, providing jobs to them. And likewise, there are many other things where we engage with the community. I think that is the way ahead. That is how we can go ahead in 21st century. We have to close the gap that is seen between police and people. Only then people would have more faith in us, and that would in turn strengthen us as an organization.
Right. Suresh on the chat says, pranams to each and every one in the police personnel and their families for going beyond policing. Jaydev, you talked about the Kerala model, and as a journalist, we've covered Kerala, and we can see why the health infrastructure there was in some ways much better prepared for COVID, because you've handled similar, not pandemic, but definitely SARS and so on earlier. So tell us about what is the in the new world. I mean, in this new world where you are going to be working with the health system, with people more closely, how are you looking at your role going forward?
Hi, yeah, actually, Kerala has been in the in the forefront of all these things. So last year, apparently, I was there at SP Calicut also when Nipah was Nipah was there at Calicut, Nipah attacked Calicut. So inherently, there also we were working in close liaison with medical authorities. But I could see that they have a technical ability, and if we club our police ability to work 24 hours a day without even complaining, without even looking at our own personal life and all. I mean, even the safety of our family we are keeping aside, and we are working for the society. If both they have a lot of synergy to us, both medical as well as the police. Yes, as the previous question and answer was answered, we have our inherent job of police is that it's not a win-win game. There is always a one side where the balance is tilted. But in this COVID situation, is always a win-win. The way we do, the work we do, everything was appreciated by one and all. There was not a sectional segment of society which was against police. Be it on the roads, be it the contact tracing, be it the activities that we do for the welfare of societies, it was appreciated by one and all. And I think with the with such with the pandemics of this kind, God forbid it doesn't happen again. But the synergy that we have created along with the health department will definitely go a long way to ensure that the society is free of all these things.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. Sanjay Sinha says to Atul Thakur, it's a very touching story of the baby being delivered in a police van ambulance and the baby being named after the policewoman who assisted in the delivery. Okay. Atul, just to come back on that, I mean, you and I think almost everyone in the big cities has been playing an important role in distributing food So is that something that, I mean, I'm sure this is continuing right now. I mean, maybe it's not as much as before, but are you still actively doing work which is maybe different and still in keeping with the fact that we have COVID-19 with us?
In fact, we've added on to it. जिस स्केल पे लॉकडाउन में फूड डिलीवर हो रहा था उस स्केल पे नहीं हो रहा है, बट फूड के अलावा मास्क, सैनिटाइजर्स, बुक्स, और क्योंकि दिल्ली में सर्दी भी होती है, सो वी आर टाइंग अप विद एनजीओज नाउ एंड वी आर मेकिंग श्योर दैट जो होमलेस लोग, जो भी लोग होमलेस हैं या शेल्टर्स में हैं या जे कैंप्स में हैं, उनको हम कंबल और जैकेट्स प्रोवाइड करें. So it has taken a different dimension, and it's also about awareness, going to them, telling them that the pandemic is not yet over, and also telling them that they have to keep taking precautions. One of the most important things that has come out in this pandemic is how the citizens have supported the police, how they have appreciated the role of police. And that has come about because when both sides see each other's difficult working conditions, and when both are empathetic towards each other's need. A policeman is overstretched, he is overworked, but if a citizen understands the limitations or the constraints of his job, and if the policeman understands that every citizen that he handles, he has to be empathetic towards his needs and treat his problem as his own, then the mutual respect goes up. So that is one of the biggest learnings that we've had from this pandemic.
Right, and absolutely, and I hope everyone is listening, and we've run out of time, so I'm going to give Shilpa the last word, and she also wanted to add something. So Shilpa, it's over to you.
Thank you, Govindaji. I just wanted to say that COVID has given a larger theater to portray our force as a service to the public. And recently we had floods in Hyderabad. It was hit by floods. And people were looking forward for police first, for any kind of flood relief or any emergency help that they sought. So this situation of either it is whether it is COVID or floods or any emergency or any situation, we have emerged due to this portrayal of a service that we are the first arm of government to be looked at, to be, that we have earned that confidence from the public. That is what we feel. That is what we are all proud of, being given that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpa. We've run out of time completely. This disease is still with us. We've understood it much better. We found treatments. Hopefully in a couple of months, or no, it's not even a couple of months, in maybe weeks, the vaccines should start arriving. And I'm sure our colleagues and friends in the police should be the first to, or amongst the first to get it, being frontline workers. And I do hope that this has given us all strength and conviction to not just work together and understand each other better. And when I say we, I mean we as citizens and you as the police, but also to see how we can both together make this a safer, secure, and better country. So thank you very much on that note for joining me. My extended thanks to the Ananta Center and the India Police Foundation for inviting me and hosting this conversation. Thank you very much.